With the new article in New York Times, it says that the chairman of the Joint Chief of Staff, General Caine, has privately cautioned the Trump administration that that resuming major combat operation against Iran is doable, but it would dangerously deplete interceptors available to CENTCOM, according to New York Times. And what is your understanding of the attack on Iran? They were supposed to attack Iran massively, and it didn't happen so far.
Yeah, and actually, I don't think it's going to happen this weekend. Initially, I thought it was going to happen on Friday. I forgot to take into account that Trump was going to have the White House he's going to be speaking at the White House Correspondents Association dinner. So that got canceled. The operation was canceled or not implemented because they didn't want to distract from Trump's moment in the sun. Then I thought, well, okay, that'll mean today's a possibility. However, I learned in the last 12 hours or so. So the way the planning cells are set up, Central Command and MacDill Air Force Base, they have an operations center. They're running what's called a crisis action team, and that's where the orders are issued. Like the order, okay, prepare an airstrike that's going to hit this number of targets. It's going to involve this number of aircraft, and these are the objectives. Then that order gets sent to Air Force Central Command. AFCENT is called. AFCENT used to be based in Al Udeid Air Force Base, and they operated out of what was called the CAOC, the Combined Air Operations Center, CAOC, but CAOC. The CAOC was shut down, I don't know precisely when, but sometime in the last 3 months, and it was moved from Al Udeid to Shaw Air Force Base in South Carolina. So now here's the, Air Force Central Command is now located in South Carolina, not located in Qatar. So what I've learned is that, if the orders are coming out of CENTCOM and they go to AFCENT, and AFCENT would prepare the ops plan, okay, here's how we're going to carry this operation out, and then they would send their ops plan back up to CENTCOM, and the CENTCOM commander, Brad Cooper, would sign off on it, and then, and might have Secretary of Defense Hegseth sign off on it. Then it would go back down, and then they would execute. Well, those two commands aren't really communicating. I was told they're not in real communication right now about an operation. AFCENT's sort of doing its thing, CENTCOM's doing its thing. So there are no indications from the planning side that an actual operation is in the works. So despite Trump's threats and despite some activities we saw with embassies closing, we learned yesterday that it was reported the Germans closed their embassy in Tehran. Now today the Germans came out and denied it. No, we haven't. We're still operating. Ach du Liebe. We did get some signs yesterday that the P-8s were supposedly flying over the Persian Gulf. The P-8 aircraft are designed, they conduct intelligence, surveillance, reconnaissance activities. They're basically there to replace the ground radars that are no longer operational, that Iran has wiped out. So for right now, it looks like I think that New York Times article is accurate. I think Caine did his job as he's Trump's senior military advisor. He doesn't issue commands to the Central Command. If there are commands that would come from the president through the Secretary of Defense or Secretary of War, Hegseth. So we're not seeing that right now. So it looks like we'll have a peaceful weekend. At least I hope so.
What is the communication line between Caine and the military? Is he receiving all these intelligence information from the military? Then
no, Caine. I understand. Look, Caine. So Caine gets copied on all messages out of CENTCOM. But Caine's not the decision maker for CENTCOM. Secretary of War Hegseth is the decision maker. Chain of command is Hegseth, CENTCOM. The Joint Chiefs of Staff, and Caine is the head of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, is by statute, by law, his job is to advise the president, to be the president's senior military advisor, say, okay, this is what they're proposing. This would be a good idea. This would be a bad idea. These are the consequences. And it looks like Caine is doing a good job. I know that I think Anthony Aguilar has worked with Caine in the past, and I think Anthony spoke highly of him. That he was, he was a good commander, good, decent guy, not one to indulge in craziness. So it looks like Caine at least is doing his job and may have talked Trump out of it.
So basically, his role is to be the main analyst of the information coming to him and interpreting or giving his understanding, his perception to Donald Trump.
But he delivers the messages. I mean, he's got Defense Intelligence Agency reports to him. I mean, again, the chain of command goes through Hegseth, but the Joint Chiefs of Staff, they collect all the information out of DIA, out of the National Security Agency, out of the National Reconnaissance Office. So there's Joint Chiefs of Staff is supposed to be where, they understand what all the intel is. They understand what is called order of battle. And will advise, is this, if CENTCOM comes in and says, here's our proposed plan, Caine can go to Trump and say, I think that plan sucks because X, Y, and Z. Or I think that plan is deficient, it lacks this, this, and this. Where then Trump could go back to Brad Cooper and say, hey, let's, I'm not happy with this, you need to adjust this, you need to change that kind of thing.
Do you feel that they are still assessing the attack, or they somehow they have decided because of the interceptor, as it was mentioned in this article,
Well,
the shortage is not going to be resolved anytime soon?
No, exactly. It's the shortages, not just of the interceptors. It's the shortages of Tomahawks, Jazan, all these precision missiles. When they use them, they're not being replaced, and the replacement is maybe 3-4 years away. And so Caine is not just focused upon Central Command; he's also focused on Pacific Command, PACOM. He's also focused on European Command, EUCOM, because they each have specific. EUCOM's mission is with respect to Russia, and so they've got to be prepared to fight Russia. I mean, that's their job. PACOM's job is to be prepared to fight China. So then they sit down and say, what do we need to fight China? Do we have do we have all of the necessary weapons we need to do that? And I think the messages coming back from EUCOM or PACOM are going, good God, we're running out. We don't even have enough to carry out our mission.
Yeah. Larry, we had the war happening, the escalation between Yemen and Saudi Arabia. Last night I thought that they're not going to go that far attacking Aramco.
You talked last night to who?
I thought that the response on the part of Yemen, I was thinking of Aramco. I said, if they want to escalate drastically, they will attack Aramco. If they want to go little by little, escalate in the war, they're going to attack on the pipeline, on the port in the Red Sea. But they attacked both of them last night.
No, actually, my understanding, they didn't attack Yanbu. There were reports that, but not confirmed. So if you saw confirmation, fine, but I haven't seen that.
No, I haven't seen the confirmation.
But they did take out the Aramco facility, Jazan, and that's the world. My understanding, it's right now the world's most sophisticated petrochemical refinery. And so the damage they've done, the report I heard today said it's going to be at least 4 months before it's back up and operating, assuming there are no more attacks on it. So, you know, the Houthis really, they delivered a big kick in the balls to the Saudis. And the Saudis are now like, okay, what are they going to do? Because if the Saudis double down and try to go back and attack now, you know, hit the port at Hodeidah. They bombed at Hodeidah, but claimed that they didn't hit the port. They hit other structures. But if they try to take out Hodeidah, you know, then Iran's next shot will be there are two refineries at Yanbu, north and south. They take those out, then those oil terminals are shut down. And I said refineries, I meant oil terminals. Those terminals are shut down and there's no more oil coming out of Saudi Arabia. Not through the Strait of Hormuz and not through the Red Sea. And that will further exacerbate global oil supplies. And I think, frankly, that's another issue that's weighing upon Trump, because I just received a little bit ago a report from an energy expert who's a consultant in the Persian Gulf. Let me give you his bottom line, that it is the U.S. military is stealing America's diesel and jet fuel safety margin. The government is pulling critical fuel out of depleted domestic systems, moving it through opaque military and overseas channels, and leaving the American economy with the shortage risk. And there are 6 findings. Number 1, the U.S. military is stealing the domestic fuel cushion. Priority procurement, military inventory issues, foreign military programs and exports feeding overseas hubs all pull from the same strategic fuel pool. The labels differ, the economic result does not. Fuel is taken from the domestic safety margin, transferred into the war machine. That's number 1. 2, the theft is occurring inside a verified shortage. From May 1st through July 17th, there were 161 million barrels of oil of distillate and jet fuel left in the United States. 1.9 million barrels every day. So let's call it 2 million. The national distillate stocks were 22% below the 2015 to 2019 norm. East Coast stocks were 51% below. Washington exported critical fuels while the East Coast held less than half of its former cushion. 3, Rotterdam is the shadow handoff. April records show that 8.6 million barrels of oil were sent to the Netherlands. Of that, 8.8 million barrels of distillate and 0.644 million barrels of jet and 0.003 million barrels of kerosene. Nearly all Dutch-bound distillate was less than 15 parts per meter. Rotterdam is a transshipment hub. The public U.S. trail stops before the onward buyer and final user. 4, the military accounting system hides the destination. Public data merged Jet A and JP8, so these are 2 different aviation fuels. Qualifying armed service shipments can be EEI exempt, and no public ledger reconciles commercial exports with military issues, foreign deliveries, and operational consumption. 5, U.S. taxpayers are subsidizing Israel while America runs short. Washington maintains an active JP-8 procurement vehicle for Israel inside a taxpayer-backed military assistance system. Direct deliveries are visible. Additional Dutch routed supply is likely. The government does not disclose the exact indirect cargoes. And then finally, the war machine gets the fuel, America gets the damage. U.S. trucking, rail, agriculture, heating, civil aviation are left with depleted buffer and the disruption risk. Military and foreign operations receive priority access. This is not ordinary trade because, beside a healthy reserve, it is a military-directed transfer of strategic fuel away from the American economy. So all of that combined may be the what has also given Trump pause to continuing the military strikes.
Yeah. Yeah. Larry, don't you think the behavior of Saudi Arabia is somehow so strange? Because when it comes to the Strait of Hormuz, we can say that we are arguing that maybe the United States is putting pressure on them. Do you think with the case of Yemen is the same? The United States is forcing them to attack Yemen, or it's their decision and their understanding and their sort of strategy?
Maybe it may be the Israelis encouraging them. If the United States did encourage the Saudis, I guess, good Lord, what a stupid suggestion, because they didn't sit down and say, okay, look, if Saudis retaliate, do they have a lot of sophisticated infrastructure and advanced refineries and massive oil fields in Yemen that they can blow up? No. You're going to call it tit for tat. There's not a lot of tat in Yemen, but boy, there's a lot of tit in Saudi Arabia. And as we saw that strike, the strike on the petroleum, that petrochemical refinery in Jazan last night was, it hurt Saudi Arabia, hurt them bad. And it's 4 months worth of damage. August, September, October, November. They may not be back to normal until December, if that. And so if the Saudis decide to escalate, the Yemen's going to go after Yanbu, and they'll take out those oil terminals and the north and south terminals in Yanbu. And then Ukraine doesn't have any cash flow from oil.
They retaliated attacking the mountains in Yemen. The mountains were hit by the United States multiple. I remember every time they were there.
Oh my God, those mountains, man! Those mountains were steadily moving north. The mountains were going to cross the border. Oh, look, this is ridiculous.
I assume the United States hit them with bunker buster, if I'm not mistaken, Larry. Yeah, was that the case?
I hadn't heard that. What did they hit?
I don't know, because they feel that the missile, all these, underground cities under the mountain, they have that. That's why they're hitting the mountains, because all those missiles are beneath the mountains. That's why they're trying to do this.
Yeah, and how did that work out during the first 18 months with Operation Prosperity Guardian, followed by Rough Rider? Did they stop the Houthi missiles? No, didn't even come close.
I assume they hit nothing because there was no response from Yemen after that attack. It seems that they couldn't hit anything. Maybe the entrance or of the tunnels, but there is nothing happening with the case of Yemen. There was no retaliation, no response, as I've mentioned. It means that, but after all, you look at the Red Sea, Larry, today. Are they gonna continue this tit for tat, Saudi Arabia, or
Well, I don't know, but if they do, then I've laid it out. What's the big target the Saudis can go after? Hodeidah, or one of the airports. If they do that, the Houthis are going to retaliate. I think they'll hit Yanbu, oil terminals. Now they may go back and decide to really create more damage on Jazan. Hit some more portions and really make them maybe destroy that whole facility. So they'd be looking at years rebuilding it, not just months.
We had an attack, Larry, between, it seems that the Russian cargo ship was headed toward Iran, and it was attacked by Ukrainians. And Zelensky today tweeted that we hit one of these cargo ships heading to Iran. Then the Iranian response came out. It's so interesting that all of these, Ukraine is within reach of Iranian ballistic missiles. If they want, they can hit Ukraine. I don't know why are they escalating. Do you see the moment that something of that sort happening? Here is what the Iranian Foreign Ministry moments ago gave out the statement on their part. Iran's foreign ministry condemns Ukraine's attack against an Iranian. I thought it was Russian Iranian cargo ship, which killed one sailor. The foreign ministry states that in accordance with the international law and the UN Charter, Iran reserves the right to legitimate self-defense if such actions continue. Iran will never hesitate to defend itself and its national interest. Responsibility for the consequences of the adventurism committed by the Ukrainian regime's leader, Zelensky, will lie with that regime and its supporters and instigators.
Mm-hmm.
Zelensky is somehow connecting the two wars, it seems to me, if he continues to do that, because we know the communication between Iran and Russia is happening in the Caspian Sea. What is your understanding of that?
Well, again, it's just, they hit it, it caused damage, but it's not going to stop the flow of Russian or the trade between Russia and Iran. And, I think usually the Russian response is to start deploying more air defense missiles into that region as well. They've got but I don't think Iran's going to launch any ballistic missiles at Kyiv. The Russians are doing a damn fine job of it themselves. I mean, they're you saw what happened. Was it yesterday? Day before yesterday, they had this military exhibition. There were, it was showing off all of Ukraine's defense wares. Russians blew the hell out of it. They killed at least 10 people, maybe more, caused hundreds of casualties. So,
how do you see, Larry, the way that Russia and Iran and China are communicating and were communicating about the United States? Because the two, Russia and Iran, are fighting the United States, and China is in the background. And
not real. Okay, not really. Did you see? Did you read the statement that Wang Yi made at the end of the Shanghai Cooperation Organization meetings?
No, I didn't see.
Look that up. Can you look it up real quick?
Yeah,
or do you want me to do it?
Let me just check it here. I don't know if
just say list. Give me Wang Yi's statement to the made regarding Iran at the end of the Shanghai Cooperation Organization meeting.
Yeah, let me just. It was. Yes, it was on Wednesday.
Yeah, maybe on Wednesday.
Yeah.
But it's a very strong statement.
I couldn't find his statement.
Oh,
where did you?
Hang on.
Is he talking about the cooperation between Russia, China, and Iran, or something else?
About Iran.
The only news I have is the meeting he had with Rubio.
So at the foreign ministers meeting in Kyrgyzstan, Wang Yi met Arachi on the sidelines, and he said that China, quote, firmly supports Iran in safeguarding its sovereignty, security, and national dignity. He urged a return to negotiations and implementation of previous diplomatic statements. So, he was very, very firmly on supporting Iran, not the Gulf states, and not the United States.
The problem is how to manage the United States in order to reduce the damage from these wars. And I don't
What do you
know
mean?
if the
Okay, managed by whom?
managed by
Iran,
Russia
by
and
or
Iran,
China?
both Russia and Iran, because they're fighting the United States right now. They're directly in, they're directly fighting with the United States. One of them is in Ukraine, and Iran is fighting directly with the United States. Because what is happening, to my understanding, is Donald Trump, even before having any sort of talks or negotiations, he's attacking the southern part of it. He wants to destroy as much as possible. Is that your perception?
No. I mean, otherwise he'd be still doing it. He didn't. He stopped. Stopped yesterday. Apparently hasn't continued it today. And I doubt he'll do it tomorrow, because if he does it tomorrow on Sunday, and they hit infrastructure and refinery capabilities in Iran, what do you think that'll do to the price of oil Monday morning when the market's open? So you actually already had the answer to your question when you read the New York Times article about what General Caine said. That, hey, we're running short. I mean, this is something I've been saying, for the last 2 weeks, that the United States had a limited capability of what it could do to continue blasting Iran. It does not have unlimited supplies. And it's not just with interceptor missiles, it's with their precision missiles, the Tomahawks, the Jazans, the ATACMS. They've got limited range to start with, as well. And the PRSM, the precision strike missile, forget about that. They're out of that now. So, and that's why Caine said, "Hey, okay, yeah, we can do it, Mr. President. Yeah, if that's what you want to do. I'm not telling you no, but just be aware we're running down our stocks to critical levels, and we might, if we had to get into a fight with China or Russia, we're going to be tapped out." That's essentially what he was saying.
Is Yemen going to resolve the siege on Yemen?